Well, hello, time management fans. My name is Glenn Watt, Senior Editor of Time Management Magazine. Thank you for joining us. Today we have none other than JasonWomack. Jason provides practical methods to maximize tools, systems, and processes to achieve quality work-life balance. He has worked with leaders and executives for over 16 years in the business and education sectors. His focus is on creating ideas that matter and implementing solutions that are valuable to organizations and individuals in those organizations. He is the CEO and founder of the JasonWomack Company and an advisor to leaders worldwide and author dedicated to helping individual contributors, entrepreneurs, and executives work effectively and efficiently so they have time, energy, and focus to achieve more in work and life. Author of Your Best Just Got Better, Work Smarter, Think Bigger, Make More, Jason shows that working longer hours doesn't make up for a flawed approach to productivity and performance. Entrepreneurs need to clarify their habits, build mindset-based strategies, and be productive. Womack's signature workplace performance techniques offer specific strategies to consistently and incrementally improve performance. Thank you very much for joining us, Jason.
Thank you so much, Glenn, and everybody. Welcome to what promises to be a good discussion.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to it. I know you're definitely one of the authors that I've always kind of listened to. I've always kind of followed you on Twitter. So I'm very grateful that you're here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
I guess my first question I'd like to throw out there is, what kind of, or what's one of the ways that you're most productive? What kind of techniques do you use to achieve maximum productivity?
You mentioned something in reading that little bio, and
Okay.
I always have to reflect on kind of what's been published out there to remember. But you use the word focus, and there's a lot of focus right now on how do we prioritize, how do we ensure that we're on course, how do we make sure that we're tracking all of our objectives, our projects, and our to-dos. And I'm taking a spin on that this year, actually for probably about the past 18, 24 months. I've actually been looking at not what do I focus on, Glenn, but what am I blurring? What am I leaving on the side that could otherwise pull on my attention? And I got this idea actually as I was doing research on digital cameras. I was looking to buy a new digital camera, and I had the thought that said, the autofocus that cameras now come with, which are fantastic. I mean, you can pull up the camera, you point it at a group of people, it starts to block faces, and it starts to find smiles. And then I had this extra thought, which is we don't ever talk about how well the camera blurs the background. We're always focused on what the camera is doing to focus on things. Well, just as technological, just as important is knowing what to blur. And so a lot of my work lately with founders of companies, with recently promoted managers, I've been working with a lot of universities with their graduate students who are leaving school and entering the workplace. We're actually studying what do they need to be blurring? What do they need to be not focused on so that they can bring that time and energy to those most important things?
Yeah, very, very true. I know that's a huge problem that I face myself. Is there's so much coming at you every day that trying to pick out what you need to focus on, it can be hard. And eliminating
you have an advantage because you talk to a lot of us and you put together a great magazine, which I've been following for a while. Give us a goodie. What have you seen? What's a new thing out there in time management and productivity? Is there anything new?
New. Well, one thing that I've really been kind of focused on lately is to try to bring focus and achieve more. What I've actually wound up doing is trying to achieve less, and that's using the idea of focusing on just 3 things each day, each week, and each month. And I find that that really helps me just focus on getting those things done. If I get extras done, great.
Bonus.
But at least I know that when I'm sitting down and I'm trying to plan things out, okay, this is what I'm absolutely going to get done. Otherwise this interview wouldn't happen. There'd be so many things that just didn't happen. So that's kind of my focal point.
That's a great thing for those watching this today. You know, what I heard in my head as you were saying that was do less more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Do less more.
Neat.
What is some of the lessons that you'd like to pass on to someone who's just trying to start out, trying to get started in sorting through all of this time management stuff? What are some of the lessons you'd like them to learn?
You know, I wish I could say that, you know, I've gone to the cave and I'm coming back with this, you know, brand new information that's going to change the course of human and history. Just yesterday, I was running an interview with a commander in the Air Force who I'm interviewing for a project I'm working on, and he said, because I asked him a very similar question, Glenn. I said, look, what do you see in the next 20 to 50 years the leaders in that organization are going to have? What skills will they have to have? You know, being able to see is an important one, right? Being able to make rapid decisions with little or no information is an important one. And what he said really, really sat me back and made me think. And it's the same answer I want to share here, which is to start managing time, to start being more productive, to start engaging in those bigger goals that I know some of you are considering. The significance of knowing yourself, of knowing what your motive for actions are, of knowing what sets you off or puts you on. I with my clients, one activity we'll do is I'll grab a little Post-it and I'll have them write a quick list. I'll have them answer the question, what are some things that could, I ask them, what could ruin your day? Okay, let's just put that out there. A lot of traffic, you know, the kids not being prepared for school. I mean, you could probably come up with a half a dozen things. Well, we get another Post-it and I say, what are some things that if you did would improve or increase the likelihood that you have a good day? And I got to tell you, Glenn, it's like kryptonite to Superman. The thought that people could actually script, well, if I did these things, the likelihood of me having a good day would increase. It seems foreign to people. But in that recipe, I call it Recipe for a Better Day, in that recipe, there's some really valuable information. Let me take this one step further. If you work with a team, if you work with a colleague, if you work with a partner, I have the partners share this inventory with one another. So now not only have I put the work on my side toward, you know, I'm at my best, right? I'm at my best when I eat a balanced breakfast. I'm at my best when I capture my agreements as I make them. I'm at my best when I ask for help before I need it. That's an important one. But when I share that recipe with a colleague, with a partner, with a client, I mean, I've actually, I'm now thinking about this. In the past few years, I've shared the At My Best When with clients. I've arrived and they had a special breakfast off to the side for me. And they said, hey, Jason, just want to make sure, you know, we brought you in. We flew you to Toronto or to London. We just want to make sure you got that good breakfast in ya. But for me, it was a way of being transparent. You know, Brene Brown, if you followed any of her TED Talks or read any of her books, we're seeing a big, we're seeing a great acceptance of transparency, vulnerability, and honesty. And I guess one of the things that I would suggest is if time management is as important as we think it is to the people in this community, step number one is know why and how you could be a better time manager.
That's very true. And you mentioned some very interesting things that I think I'm going to apply myself. I'd never actually thought about, handing over to coworkers what would make my day an exceptional day. I've never thought of doing that. I think that's brilliant. I'm going to do it. Just see what happens.
Can I give one more tactic really fast?
Sure, yeah, go right ahead.
Along those lines, it's another activity that I run with my workshops that, please take this and run with it. What I encourage you to do is to write down the first 3 phrases or words that come to your mind when you think of the word productivity. And that's going to mean different things to different people. So what I do, Glenn, is I'll get that team of 4 or 17, or I've done this with as big of groups as 75 people. And what we do is we have everybody write down the first 3 words that come to their mind when they think of the word productivity. The first 3 words are phrases. And then we have people share those with one another. And I'll give you one specific story about how impactful this was for a team. 17 people. The managing director brought me in, and I did a 3-hour workshop for his team of 17. We went around the room, and one of his directors, I remember she said, a productive day to me is I stay till the job is done. Okay? So her definition of productivity was she got her 3 things, and she did not leave till those things were done. We kept on going around the table, and then his other director, they were sitting kind of across from each other a little bit on the conference table. He said, productivity to me means getting home in time for dinner with my family at least 3 days a week. I don't know about you, or those of you watching, but do you see potential for conflict here? And later on in the debrief, he said, Jason, we'd been feeling some friction lately. He said, now I have a name for it. We're starting from a different definition point. So it's another reason to back up or to slow down so that we can move much, much faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I can't believe I've never ever thought about doing that or heard about it. That's a really good idea. I know I come kind of from a software development kind of world where we'll sit down and talk about requirements and we'll sit down and talk about those kinds of things, but to sit down and talk about our ideas about what being productive is, what people's values are, that's something we really talk about. That's excellent. I really like that. I have to do that. I have to do that same exercise, I think. Another question. What kinds of tools do you use to be productive?
Gosh, that's a great question. And it's kind of like when you get to an event or a conference or a networking party, and the first question someone asks, well, what's your name? And then they ask, what do you do? And what I found is that kind of a question, unfortunately, acts as a separation. So if I walk up and I say, hi, my name is Jason, what do you do? We start comparing ourselves and finding out how different we are. The same thing is true as soon as we start talking about tools, because I've already referred to the Post-it a few times. I use a red pen. I have an iPhone. I've just started distancing myself. So I guess to answer the question, I would say I consider myself a gear agnostic. I use what works for me by context. When I'm on an airplane, I found the most effective thinking tool that I can use is my Moleskine Journal. Okay? It fits on the tray table in front of me. I've always got a pen on me, so I can write down in that thing. That one is phenomenal for getting the ideas out. But you can see behind me, if I'm in my office, I've got a whiteboard. If I'm in a hotel room, and I've been doing this for a long time, what I'll do is I'll work with a client, and I'll always ask. You have to ask because you want to get permission for this. But I'll ask the client if they have a flip chart in the room I'm working in. I'll say, do you mind if I take a couple of sheets when I leave? So I'll roll up the flip chart, and if I'm in that hotel for 2 or 3 or 4 nights, I'll put up 1 or 2 flip chart pages in my hotel room. Because what I found is when I wake up in the morning, when I get back from a long day, when I come back from dinner, if I get up in the middle of the night, sometimes I'll just throw an idea up on that flip chart in the hotel room. I will collect, capture, gather as many ideas as I can. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, Jason, if you've got a notebook and you've got a napkin and a whiteboard and a flip chart, then what? And I just wrote an article for entrepreneur.com today where I said, now what? The phone, camera, always with me. So I'll take a picture of the notes that I took in my notebook. I'll take a picture of what's on the whiteboard, and I'll email it. And currently, I'm using Evernote, evernote.com. And what I do, Glenn, is I throw every idea I can into that one folder called Clipped Notes to Organize. Now, organize is an interesting topic. I know a lot of people watching this video, you're familiar with Getting Things Done and David Allen. I happen to have worked with David Allen for 6 years. I presented over 400 Getting Things Done seminars. So I understand that methodology. I understand the tactics behind that. What I do is at the end of the day, I open up that now filled up bucket, whatever I want to call it, and I'm looking for 2 things, Glenn. I'm looking for nouns and I'm looking for verbs. I'm looking for what does this idea look like if it were out in the world? So let's pretend that day I had an idea for an article for one of my business magazines, Inc. magazine. And I drafted out the article, right? Just kind of a brainstorm or a mind map. The first question I asked myself is, what would this look like if it were in the magazine? Would it have a picture? Would it have a diagram? How many paragraphs would it look like? Would there be a checklist? Would there be a call to action? Would there be quotes from other people? So what I'm doing there is I'm framing, Peter Drucker taught me this, I'm putting a boundary around what the finished product would look like. And then the second thing that I'm looking for is, okay, if I'm going to achieve that noun, what's the verb? Right? If I'm going to interview someone, who am I going to email to set up the interview? If I'm going to create a checklist, what materials am I going to review to make that checklist? If I'm going to have a call to action, where am I going to, or how am I going to come up with that call to action in the article? So I guess for me, the question you ask, kind of what's the gear, what are the tools, what are you using these days? I find the best tool that I need to help myself use the most is this thing. And I'll do everything I can to set it up so that I can think deeply.
Wow, that's really good. That's really good advice, because I know that's one thing that I often run into is just getting caught up into just doing things. The repetitive cycle, do, and then you stop and you go, why am I doing this? I don't even remember why I'm doing this.
Well, I mean, I think it bears repeating what you shared at the earlier part of this discussion, which is, you've been experimenting with that. Let me select 3 things. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I've been doing for a while. I use a digital calendar, and everyone's gonna say, which one? What I've done is I've set up my Google Calendar so that while I'm on my Mac, my calendar opens up in iCal. When I'm on my iPhone, it opens up in Calendar. If I'm on my PC in Microsoft Outlook, it opens up in my Outlook calendar. If I'm on my other computer and I'm using Lotus Notes, it opens up in my Lotus Notes calendar. And I just did the Google Calendar, whatever you call it. Again, system agnostic. What I do, however, is on the top, as all-day event on the top of my calendar, I actually write down my 3 or fewer, I call them MITs, most important things. They're always nouns, and they're the areas of my life that I choose to make more important for that specific day. And the reason I write these down, Glenn, is at the end of a week, at a 7-day cycle, I want to look back. You ready for this? I'm looking for, what am I avoiding?
Oh.
So, for example, right? How many days can I go without being an excellent husband? Without being an excellent athlete? Without being an excellent writer? And I've got at any given time somewhere between 20 and 30 of these MITs. I learned this from Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey, and he talked about roles and goals. And what I did is I turned those into nouns, and I've got the little list. You know, I'm a coach, I'm a writer, I'm a husband, I'm a homeowner, I'm an athlete, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a friend. You get the picture. And what I'm looking for in that 7-day cycle is, what did I avoid? You know, what am I not making important this week? And then how do I fill that in next week?
Wow, that's really good. I'm going to do this. That's awesome. I had never heard of that. Thank you. All right.
That's like 3 things. Let's give people some more. This is good.
All right. I guess in that vein, what would you like someone to take away from this? What would you like to be the biggest takeaway that someone walks away from seeing this interview with?
I got it. So in the book, which, can we do a quick plug for the book?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Yes. Tell us about your book.
And by the way, it's a free plug. So if you go over to my website, womackcompany.com, there's a place there where I am going to ask you for your email address so I can stay in touch. But you can download the first 42 pages of the book for free. And the reason I worked this out with the editor, John Wiley & Sons is the publisher of the book, I said, I need more people to capture from the first part of the book. There's a process I call your ideal day. Your ideal day is not the perfect day. It's not the day you save up your life for. It's not a once in a lifetime. That's a different kind of a day that we can talk about later. Ideal day process to me is, I sit down, I look at a blank piece of paper. On the top, I write down what kind of a day I want to think about. Is this a day at work? Is this a day with my family? Is this a day racing a triathlon? Is this a day writing? Whatever it is. And then what I do is I script out 300, maybe 400 words of how that day would unfold if it were an ideal day. And I learned this process from a mentor of mine in 1995, so I'm kind of dating this. And similar in vein to what we shared at the beginning of our little conversation, where I said, what could you do to increase the likelihood of having a good day? And that became my at my best when activity. This one was back in 95. I was a high school teacher. I was actually preparing to be a high school teacher. I was still in graduate school. And it was an end of a particularly hard day. I remember it was about 7 o'clock at night. I was working with my mentor. It was hard. It was hard. My hand goes up. It was hard. And I don't remember what I was saying, but this is what Ron asked me. He said, Jason, would you know a good day if you saw one? And it really impacted me, Glenn, because I had gotten comfortable complaining about what was. I had not been practicing bringing in what could be ideal. And since then, I've written out more than 1,000 ideal days. Some of them have come true. Some of them are real big. But to me, if there's one thing that I could ask the viewers of this video to do, is to give yourself the benefit that, Napoleon Hill, I'm not the first person to say this, right? If you believe it, you could achieve it. It's not automatic, but I know the likelihood increases. If I say to myself, look, an ideal day with my spouse is when we get up leisurely in the morning, we go have a nice breakfast, we go for a walk in the mountains, and then we have a picnic lunch. Heck, that's kind of possible. And that would be kind of the one big thing, because really that sets us up then for why time management, why productivity, why Uber engagement. I was doing a presentation at a school. I got to speak for the students, 7th graders through 12th graders, and then I got to talk with the faculty and staff. This was fantastic. At any rate, towards the end of the day, one of the faculty raised his hand and he kind of smiled and he said, "Jason, you're really obsessed with time, aren't you?" And I know what he was asking, and I know how I can come across at times. And I said, I'm not so much obsessed with the 1,440 minutes we have in a day. I'm not really obsessed with the 96 15-minute blocks of time we have in a day. I'm not really obsessed with the fact that most people's attention span is half their age in minutes. No, those things don't obsess me. What really obsesses me is shipping. Are you shipping? At the end of the day, are you spreading? Are you sharing? Are you delivering? Are you producing on what it is you're here to do? That's what I'm obsessed with.
Wow, that's really good. I wish I had heard that about 15 years ago.
So let's share it with some teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Yeah, no kidding. Wow. You didn't quite mention your book, your most recent book. What was the name
It's
of your
really good. Your Best Just Got Better. And real quick, the title of the book is actually from the title of my blog. I've been blogging since, are you sitting down? I've been blogging since 2000. And I realized in the middle of that decade, 2004-5, that the title of my blog had more to do it, had more to it than met the eye. So 2004, 5, 6, 7, pretty much 8, I really became a student of these two words, best and better. And by studying the word best, it was really interesting to me at looking out in the world, what is best? Who is best? Where is best? And the one thing I realize is it's totally relative. It changes. The sun sets and tomorrow something else is best. And we move seasons and suddenly someone else is best. And so I realized that there was this really subjective and relative marker that for me, it freed me up a little bit. It meant I can seek out best, but I'm never going to be there, and that's okay. Meaning the best that I have to give today, my best is going to be different next month, right? Maybe I didn't sleep as well the night before. Or maybe, right now I'm just at the end of a little chest and head cold. I know that my best right now is not as best as when I'm not head colding, right? So that became really interesting to me. The second word that I've been studying is better. Better as both a noun and a verb. And contrary to popular belief, I'm not an English teacher, but I'm consumed by this concept of nouns and verbs. So when I look at the word better, and that's the question that I ask in all my interviews. Before I work with a client one-on-one, most of my work now is advising leaders. And I ask them, I said, what does better mean? And they'll come at it from one of those two perspectives. They'll come at it from the perspective of better as a noun, better as some place we're marching toward, better as some product or innovation that ultimately will make things better. The other approach that people take, the other perspective that I've heard that I want to work with people on is the verb better, to better. right? To how do I better myself? How do I better the community? How do we better the social situations that we're in? And so the book then unfolded in a way where there's 10 areas that I would want to make my best, again, relative, subjective, better as both a destination and a direction. So for example, can I share one chapter just as an example?
Yeah, yes.
So let me flip a 10 coin. Let's do chapter 5. So chapter 5, the topic is improve. Oh, by the way, every chapter starts with the words improvement and then there's 10 areas that we take a look at. So chapter 5, it says improvement and your social network. Okay. Not your social media network, right? Not Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever's going to be next. If we just wait long enough, there'll be a next one. I'm talking about the 5 people who you get influenced by the most. The people that at the end of the day you want to share a good day, or a day you want to talk about a hard day, or at the end of a week you want to call and ask for advice, or that when you open up Skype you hope that they're online so you can get a little bit of their mind share. Those 5 people that you let influence you can change you. They can change what movie you see, what restaurant you eat in. They can even change what book you read next. Now, if I think about this, if the 5 people I spend the most time with can influence what movie I see, what restaurant I eat in, and what book I read, then what does that mean for my career, right? I mean, what does that mean for how I treat my health? And what does that mean for how good of a husband I think I am? And hopefully you're asking yourself, those of you watching this, wait a minute, Jason, do you mean that if I change who I spend time with, I may change my health? I may change my career path? I may change how I am as a spouse? And the answer to all 3 of those questions is, can I hear it together? Yes. So that's a sample of one chapter of the book, and I talk about how important it is to curate like a museum, right? Like the Louvre. The Louvre in Paris, the statistic I read is that when you walk through the Louvre Museum, what you see is barely 12% of the collection.
Wow.
There's another underground and off-site, 88% of what could influence the viewer's experience. Think about that with your social network. All right? I want to make sure that what's in plain view are the best of the best.
Very true. Wow. I think that's really true. That the people you surround yourself with really do have such a huge impact on your life and the outcome of your life and your happiness and everything. That's very, very true. I wanted to ask you, and before I ask you the next question, just in case, I'm not sure, I've been kind of looking at the video, and I hope that there wasn't a problem with Skype just a moment ago, but I think there might have been a bit of time where there was a difference in the audio and video might have been out of sync a bit. It's back now, everything's good, but I noticed it while you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you, so hopefully everything's okay, but we'll, just in case. For the next question I wanted to ask you is, what is the question that you've been dying to be asked, but no one's ever asked you?
That's a good question, Glenn. I think I'm going to go with what I'm given. So the question, it's the 7th or 9th why. So if you said, Jason, why do you do what you do? I do what I do because it helps people improve their productivity and performance, and it gives them back their life. But if we went down 7 or 9 layers of that, the question I want to answer is, Jason, why do you do what you do? And it goes something like this, and I'm kind of making it up as I go. You're here for more than a to-do list or to get to inbox 0. Okay? You're here for more than that. And when you were I don't know, 4 years old, 7 years old, 9 years old, you had a vision of the world that wasn't hard like it is now. I did. I did. Now, I won't go so far as to say when I was 4, 7, or 9 that I knew what I wanted to do. But I know when I was younger, I didn't think it was hard. I didn't think that the end of the day would be something that I would wait for so that I could just stop. And so maybe the question is something like, Jason, why are you so engaged? Why are you so happy? I get that one from time to time. But in the sense of this is because, Glenn, I see in the very near future, 60 months, 120 months, I see more and more people being able to give of an overflow, of an abundance, of a care. I see people being able to give more even though they might not have a lot. I was just at the TED conference last 2 weeks ago, and I was talking with a colleague from another country, from an African country, and he was telling me that right now in the school that the kids are in, they've got these laptops. You've probably heard of the one laptop per child, and you know about Skype because here we are. And what they're doing is they're connecting these students who are learning. They're learning science and biology, and they're learning math and English. And what they're doing is they're opening up Skype, and they're going through because they have pre-qualified tutors, live, in the moment, one-on-one tutors who are grandmothers halfway across the world. And these grandmothers, they have a little bit of extra time in their day. They have a computer with an internet connection. And all of a sudden, this student who's trying to learn how to read can sit down with a grandma. And I see so much in the near future, that 5 to 10 years, that it's going to be easier to give of the abundance we have, even if we don't have a lot.
Wow, that's very true. That's very. I actually, you mirror some of my own thoughts, my own thinking, and different situations that I've been in. I have to agree. Wow, that's. You've got me excited just sitting here. I want to go, oh yeah, all right. That's really cool that they have that kind of a program.
Right.
That's really amazing. Gives me some ideas, something to do. Maybe I can get a laptop. Maybe I can be a tutor. Maybe I have a bunch of stories in a different life. I actually work at a university, so I have some stories there too. No, that's been wonderful. Is there anything that you'd like to pass on in closing, or?
I know that upcoming there's going to be an issue on procrastination. I think that we emailed you and I a little bit about that.
Yes.
So I wrote an article called "No More Procrastination." It's 7 steps to take to cut procrastination out. I'm happy to share that with anybody. Just email me and I'll email that back. We should leave my email address. It's just jason@womackcompany.com. The website has a blog if you want to consume a little bit, kind of test the water before you get the book. The podcast is probably the this is totally my opinion, but it's 4 to 7 minutes every Friday. And I've been doing this for over 90 weeks now. So you've got a nice backlog if you want to go through and kind of pick some. And then every Friday morning we publish a new one. And Glenn, I see us doing that into the future. I don't want to say forever, but I've probably got another 30, 40 things that I know I could say. And I want to be as open and available as I can. I study this stuff so you don't have to. So if you have a question or a doubt or a consideration, please feel free to use me as a sounding board. Call me anytime. I love to talk about this stuff.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jason. This has been an awesome interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. And thank you, time management fans. We'll talk to you next time.